Howdy y'all, I'm Brylan. My last video was a response to Kirk Cameron and his recent video where he described how he's changed his view on hell. He now claims to hold the position of annihilationism. Go watch my video called The Truth About Kirk Cameron and His View of Hell to get my full reaction and my thoughts on hell. I actually say in that video that I would love to see Ray Comfort react to Kirk Cameron's view on hell now because they've worked so closely together for so many years. Well, Ray Comfort obviously saw my video, and to personally appease me, he responded to Kirk Cameron, and I want to share my thoughts on his response in this video. Also, Wes Huff responded to Kirk Cameron's new view on hell, and I must say, it's probably not what you would expect. Lastly, we're going to look at one of the main Bible verses that's always used to argue for annihilationism and see if it truly means what they claim it means. You're not going to believe what verse it is. Before we get into all this, I want to share something with you that I think will change your life for the better. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room ahead of the holidays. Now, it's possible when you call American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by everyday expenses like groceries, gas, bills, all piling up, you're not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and credit card rates are insane. They're like in the 20s or even 30s. American Financing can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off all of that debt with rates in the low 5s. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you to restructure their loans and save money every month, all without any upfront fees. Their customers are saving an average of, check this out, $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 raise without having to change jobs. So call now before it's too late. American Financing, 866-887-1201. That's 866-887-1201. Or go to americanfinancing.net/Riggs. You know, we hear statements all the time like, I went through hell, or that was hell on earth. You know, these statements are, of course, exaggerations meant to express how terrible an experience was. Remember, more people believe there is a heaven than believe there is a hell. So even non-believers have intrinsically concluded that hell is the worst imaginable thing that could describe their discomfort. On one hand, when using hell in such a light and trivial way, we downplay the fact that hell is the most terrifying thing in existence. This is why there are so many attempts to either deny hell in its entirety or at least downplay the biblical account of hell, because it eases our discomfort, which is something man inherently does in a lot of situations. This is why some would even say hell is just a symbol for being separated from God, and those who hate God gladly welcome that idea, therefore, in their minds, lessening the impact of how truly terrible hell is. Yet what they don't realize is that spending eternity with the face of your Creator turned away from you, as it says in 2 Thessalonians 1:9, is the worst possible fate you could ever endure. Also, remember, this will not stop them in hell from still declaring that Jesus Christ is King of Kings, as it says in Philippians chapter 2, 9, verse 11. But perhaps the most frightening part about hell, and the hardest part for man to accept, is its eternality. In Matthew chapter 25, verse 46, Jesus himself uses the same word for eternal when describing both heaven and hell. The eternal aspect of hell is something that Kirk Cameron used to believe in, and it's something that Ray Comfort has taught as well for decades. So when Kirk Cameron changed his view on hell, I know for myself and a lot of people, they really wanted to hear how Ray Comfort would respond. Let's listen to his response now.
Kirk Cameron has been a dear friend of mine for decades. I've known him to be a godly man, a man who loves the Lord, his family, and the church. In a world filled with phonies and make-believe, especially in Hollywood, I think Kirk's the real deal. He's not only been a friend of Living Waters for nearly 25 years, but we've served in ministry together for a good portion of that time. Some of you are aware of the fact that Kirk recently shared his questions and developing thoughts about the biblical nature of hell and the fate of the wicked. On his show, his son asked him a question, and Kirk gave his honest thoughts, indicating that he finds the view known as conditional mortality or annihilationism to be both compelling and possibly biblically supported. While it certainly seemed from some of the things Kirk said on his podcast that he was indicating that this is now his official view, when I spoke with him personally on the phone, he told me that while he believes the Bible appears to point in the direction of this view, he's not settled on the matter and has asked for further discussion. Some of you have been asking whether or not Living Waters holds his position and whether or not Kirk still works with us in an official capacity. The answer is no. While we believe Kirk is sincere, we believe that conditional mortality and annihilationism are erroneous views, and that the Bible's clear teaching on hell is known as eternal conscious torment. We firmly believe that this is the only correct biblical view. Once again, we're releasing this video because we want to reaffirm that Living Waters does indeed hold to the biblical and historic Orthodox doctrine of conscious eternal torment. With regard to Kirk working with Living Waters, while we've written books and made television shows together, Kirk has not officially worked here for well over 10 years. While the purpose of this video is not to defend the doctrine of conscious eternal punishment, but rather briefly reaffirm our theological position, we do plan to offer a thorough defense of the doctrine on an upcoming Living Waters podcast episode. That episode will be available on all major podcast platforms and on our ministry's YouTube channel. We'll announce its release across our social media outlets once it becomes available. Let me assure you, Living Waters' mission remains unchanged. We will continue warning every man and teaching every man, and will not waver in our calling to equip Christians to fulfill the Great Commission to go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. We'll never stop warning people about the reality of eternal punishment in hell and pointing them to the mercy of the Savior.
You know, I thought that was an excellent response, full of grace and truth and love. And it was done in a way to not, again, tear down Kirk Cameron. As I said in my last video, responding to Kirk Cameron, that I am not going to jump in the arena of calling him a heretic and throwing him out from Christianity because I say so. I'm not going to do that. I care about Kirk Cameron, and I love him as a brother in Christ, and I do believe that he is a brother. But I also really like how Ray Comfort was straight to the point. It was short and sweet. Yet, he said that they will do a full episode defending the view of eternal conscious punishment in hell. Now, before we get to Wes Huff's response to Kirk Cameron, I want to point out that Matthew chapter 10, verse 28 is one of the main verses used to defend annihilationism. Now, this is Jesus talking, and it says this in verse 28, "And do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell." Now, again, this is one of the main verses used to argue for annihilationism because it says the body and soul is destroyed. Yet, why can an entire doctrine about hell be made from this verse, but not from the verses that say hell is eternal? Makes sense? There are many more verses in the Bible directly spoken by Jesus that say hell is eternal, yet those are explained as almost being symbolic. But this one verse in Matthew 10:28 is literal. I want to point out that the fear him in this verse does not refer to Satan, but to God, who is the one who truly has the power to save or destroy. You know, one of the biggest misconceptions about hell is that Satan is roaming around wreaking havoc and torturing his victims in hell, like he's the ruler of hell for all eternity. This is not true. Satan is under God's judgment as well and is suffering for all eternity. Now, what's interesting here in verse 28 is that this verse is used to say that the body and soul will be destroyed or annihilated, as in ceasing to exist, therefore making hell a temporary thing. However, destroy in this verse does not indicate annihilation. It indicates ruination. You know, the same verb is actually used in Matthew chapter 9, verse 17, when Jesus talks about the wineskins. It says, "Neither is new wine put into old wineskins. If it is, the skins burst and the wine is filled and the skins are destroyed. But new wine is put into fresh wineskins, and so both are preserved." When the old wineskins are destroyed, it doesn't mean that they cease to exist, but it is ruined and unable to ever function as it was created to again. In fact, Jonathan Edwards said when preaching on Revelation chapter 6, "Wicked men will hereafter earnestly wish to be turned to nothing and forever cease to be, that they may escape the wrath of God." Now, of course, there will definitely be pushback to this from those who disagree, but please know that I say this with grace and with love. And again, in my first video reacting to Kirk Cameron, I go a lot more in depth with many more scriptures that say that hell is eternal. Now, with Wes Huff becoming like the most popular man on earth when it comes to apologetics and Christian history, it's incredible how fast he rose. But this man is very knowledgeable and can be a joy to listen to. But a lot of people were surprised when he gave his reaction. This is what Wes Huff said. "With Kirk Cameron announcing his position on conditionalism, I'm seeing a lot of people attempting to critique it. I hold to eternal conscious torment, but I do understand the topic of conditional immortality. And I have yet to see anyone actually give a rebuttal that shows me they've interacted with the arguments and biblical reasoning from the other side. To condemn conditionalism, annihilationism, as heresy is to say that John Stott, Edward Fudge, F.F. Bruce, potentially even Athanasius of Alexandria, are all heretics. This is, with all due respect, ridiculous. While the position might be unorthodox, it is not heresy. If you actually want to interact with someone who knows the topic, reach out to my friends." And he has a couple people linked here. "Both are solid, fair-minded, well-educated, and articulate holders of conditionalism." Now, in the comment section, Wes is getting a lot of feedback, as you can imagine, of course, to where he actually posted this as well. "More than a few in the comment section are making my point for me. So many are assuming they know what conditionalists believe, but by their arguments against it, prove they don't. Once again, I don't hold to conditional immortality, but I've attempted to understand it from people who do. If you're actually interested in representing the position properly and avoid burning straw men, whether the fire burns eternally or only for a time and is then snuffed out, my friends Dan Patterson and Chris Date will be doing a live stream discussing it." Now, there's actually lots of people that are saying that it is a salvation issue, and lots of people saying it's not a salvation issue. Once again, you're finding people can't agree on whether hell is eternal or not, and whether it's a salvation issue or not. Once again, I go over all of this in my first video called "The Truth About Kirk Cameron and His View of Hell." So go watch that if you haven't seen it already to see my thoughts and my view on the eternal aspect of hell and how important it really is. But hey, let me know your thoughts about all this in the comment section. I would love to hear from you. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that subscribe button, join this community. I would love to hear from you on a regular basis. And please hit that thumbs up button, when you like this video, to get pushed out to more people, and it would really help spread the truth. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.